Well, hey everybody, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com. I hope you are having an excellent week as usual. Today I want to do something a little different. I want to kind of do a product review, but just a specific aspect of a product. I'm looking at Studio One from PreSonus, and what I want to show you is their mastering features in this DAW. I've been using Studio One just pretty recently to master some projects that I was working on, and I was obviously piqued. My interest was piqued when this DAW came out a few years back because they were doing things a little bit differently. They were trying to position themselves in the marketplace as a different type of solution for the DAW, and they were rethinking a lot of things that just have been the same in most software for years now. And the thing that jumped out to me more than anything was their project page, their mastering suite built into the DAW. That's a separate workflow from your traditional multi-track DAW. And that's what I want to look at today, how it's different, why it's unique, how it's helpful, and just show you how easy it is to start working on your projects right away. So when you fire open Studio One, you could create a song, and that would be what you'd use if you were ready to record a new track for your band, or if you're getting tracks to mix. That's where you do all your mixing, all your editing. That's your traditional multi-track lanes. You see the mixer view, you add plugins, you got it. What's different in my mind is the project page. They have a unique little page where once you're done mixing, those songs can be rendered out of the song page into the project page. Or in my case, if I'm working on a project that I didn't record or mix or master, or I worked in another DAW and now I'm ready to master, I can fire open a new project here, give it a name. In this case, I'll name it the name of the band, Maple Union Master, and launch it. And what you get is a unique page. This doesn't look like your typical multi-track DAW. It's built just for mastering. And the first thing we have to do to make any sense of this is to bring in the audio you want to master. So over on the right, I'm just going to open up the browser here by clicking on it. And this is where you have all your plugins that you could use. But you also have files. So you can navigate on any of your volumes, any of your hard drives. I'm looking here at my desktop right now. Some mixes for Maple Union. We can pull these in. So I just drag in a file, and it populates right there. And it also populates up here. Okay, let's drag in another one. Just let go. It populates right after the first song, but on this separate lane, and it's second in the list. And then I'll drag in a third one, and it moves back to this top lane. And if you keep dragging in files, you'll see that they go top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. It's a great way for you to see when a song ends, when a new song begins. And although it looks like they're only on two tracks, you got a top track and a bottom track, it's really all individual tracks. Each one of these songs, whatever you bring in, has its own set of inserts to the right. It's an available set of inserts. So in theory, you can process each final mix with its own set of plugins and processing and tweaks to get them to match the way you want, as if you've opened up multi-tracks. So this would be like as if I had 3 tracks in the DAW, but really it's just all one easy to look at page. And so you can process them individually as you just click on them here or click on them here. And then they also have a master bus sort of lane. Think of it, this is your mix bus, your master fader. You can put inserts here as well, obviously, where you're going to put your final limiting, dither, a lot of processing that you want every track to go through, regardless of what's on the individual track, if anything at all. This already is a unique way to work because it makes things simple. You're not creating tracks. You're not moving things around. It makes a lot of sense. And what I like is that each track is already set up to be sort of like an album. You could press play and hear it go all the way through the album in order, and it would apply the different processing you want. And if you zoom in here, you're going to notice that each song is already kind of spaced. As this song ends, it ends at like 5:32. It automatically snapped this next song to 5:34, an exact 2-second gap. If you're familiar with mastering, that's going to be making sense to you, because by default, most of these CD writing software, when you ever create a master disc, it's going to ask you what kind of pause time do you want in between each track, and by default, it's usually something like 2 seconds. In this case, it is 2 seconds. You can see that also reflected up here. They all say 2-second pause. So if I thought that pause is too much, if I listen from this song to the next song, I could just click and drag this closer. And you see that reflected up here in the pause box. It says 0.73 seconds, right? So if I wanted that back to 2, I can type in 2, and my track snaps back to 2 seconds here. Just something really cool to think about. It's it's built into the software to think like you're finishing a project. What you can do also is go ahead and write your metadata, all your CD text. So up here you can write, what's the name of this disc going to be? You know, the greatest EP ever. That's the name of the album, let's say. And then the artist, type that in here. And it's going to apply that to all the tracks. And then on the individual tracks, you can name the songs, whatever they need to be named. So in this case, these mixes were sent to me as the names of the songs, space, final. Well, I don't want that to be on the CD text because I just want the song to be the song, Autumn Sights. Artist, type that in, Maple Union. Right? You can do that for all the songs. There's even a drop-down menu here where you can add ISRC codes, any comments, songwriter, composer, arranger, genre, the year it was written, all this stuff it should be applied to your tracks professionally anyway. You can write it right here. And if you're doing a digital release, you already have your artwork designed, which you probably should have at this point. You should be close to getting your artwork designed. Go ahead and get that JPEG or whatever the file is and drag it in here. You can apply an image to each of the tracks that will be embedded on the audio file, on the final MP3 or the final wave or whatever. This is awesome because when people download your track, if they buy it off of Bandcamp or you do an iTunes release, they're going to get all this data written to the tracks. When they pull it up in their media player, it's going to say the artist name, the track name, composer, all that stuff, and it's going to show a picture of the album art because that's all written into the track. So they've thought of all the things that should be going on with your mastering, but if you're just mastering at home or if you're working in a small project studio and you've never thought about these things, or you usually send it off for someone else to sort of apply the metadata to these tracks, you can do it all yourself here. You don't need any third-party software. Do it all here. So that's kind of like the technical side of getting these tracks ready to be processed in a media player where people know what songs they are. But then you can also get ahead to actually working on the audio side of things. So let's say you're ready to master a track. Let's pull up this one here and let's take a listen. So you get your audio meter here. You can see peak metering, you can see RMS metering, your average volume. You've got sort of your frequency spectrum here, which is nice. You can see what it looks like, and you can even dial it down to look really specific at the peaks. So you can get a readout of what is your mix doing. Really, really helpful stuff. And this is where you can start processing. You can just add plugins here with the plus sign. You can get a drop-down menu of all the built-in PreSonus plugins for Studio One. And then it'll see any other third-party plugins that you have installed on your system. So, we could start with some EQ, which would be a great place to start when you're mastering. And this EQ is on the insert for this track, Phantom C. So if I click on this track, there's no EQ in the insert. It disappears. This is only going to be affecting one song, so we could balance it out the way we want. You could also then add any other processing. You don't have to even do it from there. You can do it from the browser. So if you come over to the browser on the right, click Effects, you're going to see the exact same thing, and it's broken down by manufacturer. So if you have a lot of plugins from Waves, they're going to pop down there. If you want to see all the Apple plugins you have, and this is pulling everything I had from GarageBand. Anything from Isotope, PreSonus, of course, they have their own logo. These are going to be the included effects. You've got all sorts of things, your own limiter, your own, the binaural pan is super cool. Check this out. If you want to make things wider. Just let me remember when you lived. I wish you away to brighter skies than this. So obviously you can get as wide or as thin as you want to go with that kind of plugin. Whatever you want a limiter, you can drag it in and go ahead and start processing these tracks individually, okay? Super, super cool concept. Then, of course, down here is the master, and this is visible no matter what track you're on. You're going to see the master because this is where you're going to drop in plugins that you want everything to go through. In my mind, this is any kind of like saturation effect that you want everything to go through, any kind of console emulation, and definitely your limiting, right? The thing that's going to make your mix loud as anything at the end. You want all the tracks to hit that. So you'd go find your limiter, find whatever you want, drag it in there, And now all of your songs are going to be going through this, right? And you can process it, see your metering there, and get a feel for what's going on. So much like in any DAW, you apply effects the way you'd want when mastering, but you just have a different way of looking at it, and you don't have to be fiddling around with a lot of different tracks. And then if you really realize later on that you've got the wrong order, or you feel like there's a better order, all you got to do is just drag a track up, and it switches places and keeps the same pause, it keeps the same effects, it keeps everything the same, but you can listen to your album, get a feel for the order, have the order already determined in the software without adjusting anything or having to drag audio around and pseudo figure out what it would sound like. Of course, you can write fades as well. You can zoom in anywhere, and if you wanted to fade out a track, you could do that here. Fade up a track, you could do that here. You can obviously cross tracks so they kind of blend together. I mean, it's a horrible fade. Not even in the same key, but you get the idea. Take me back. You get all that control, and you can get a look at your whole album at a glance, which is what you want to be doing. Now, when you're done, right? So you've got the tracks balanced, you've got the EQ going the way you want, you've got the volume happening the way you want. The songs sound good from song to song. You got a good vibe of how this album is going to sound, or this EP is going to sound. What I really love about Studio One is that they expect you to want to just render all these things out with a single click and do all the work for you. And I'm so grateful for that, because I used to have to do this manually, song by song by song, and this is so clever. So if you're ready to burn a CD, you just click burn, okay? It's going to say burn an audio CD. You can just go ahead and burn it, and it's going to write all the metadata. It's going to write all your effects. It's going to write the track order the way you want it. No other software needed. Really, really love that. Let's say you want to make a disk image that someone else can burn, that you can send to a mastering house. So it's going to, in essence, create the image that you could just burn later at another time, or if you're on a machine that doesn't have a drive, an optical drive in it. A lot of computers these days are skipping out on an optical drive, and maybe you don't have anything hooked up right now, but you could burn the disk image and then email it to yourself, or grab a thumb drive and drag it over to another computer that does have one, or wait till you get your drive that you can plug in, burn it later. But all of the condensing, all of the information is written. It's a disk image. It just needs to be put on a disk. You can do that. If you want to do a digital release, this is super cool. So you hit digital release, and then this is going to say, okay, do you want check the songs you want to be in this release? And in most cases, it's going to be all the songs. So they check them all by default. You say, where is this going to be saved? You can save it to your desktop or anywhere. What format do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a WAV format? You could do digital WAV release. Pretty common these days is going to be an MP3. You could do something really high quality like 320 MP3. And then look what it's checked. You're going to keep the track numbers, the artist name, and then you could go ahead and publish it to SoundCloud or Nimbit. This is already built in. But even if you don't use these features or use these outlets, by default have do not publish checked. What you're going to do is click OK, and it's going to render out the entire song for you in one click. And when it's done, it takes you automatically to the folder. And so it's going to do this in the project page. So you would have your audio files. If you drag them in, you'd have all that stuff. But it creates a folder called releases. And within that folder is a file called the name of your artist and then the name of the title. So in this case, it's Maple Union, the greatest EP ever, right? And then within that folder are 3 files, and they're in the right order. 01, the artist, and then you've got the name of the song, and their MP3s, and you even have an M3U for a playlist. So it spits out everything you would want, pulling all the information that you've done here in Studio One, spits all of that out for you in one click, and so then you have that file that you can upload, sell, release to the world, even on your own, with your own means, your own way of distributing. It does it all for you, so you don't have to go relabel things. It thinks the way I think. Another great feature, of course, is a DDP file. You can render all of that information out. A lot of most mastering houses enjoy and would welcome a DDP file that's going to write all this information, the order, the track information, and you can send that directly to the mastering, or the duplication house, Very pro features at a click of a mouse. So when you're done mastering, you can burn the disc yourself and send it over. You can render out a DDP, render out a digital delete, all with a couple of clicks. And you have every version of the tracks, high quality, with all the information you've done, ready to distribute. It couldn't get easier than this. And you have all the metering, all the tools, and then of course any plugin you want to use. They give you great plugins in Studio One, and then you can use any of your other favorite plugins as well. But just for thinking like a mastering session, they've gone above and beyond. You don't need a piece of software like this to master music properly, but boy, is it more fun. And boy, you have more control, and you can do it all in one piece of software. Heck yes, I'm all about that. So much respect for Studio One in the project page and the mastering functionality. This is only available in Studio One Pro, so and even then, it's not that expensive a piece of software. But if you have Studio One Artist, maybe you bought an interface and it came with that, you can upgrade to Studio One Pro if you want this feature set. And if you start mastering your own material and you're trying to finalize an album, there couldn't be a better way to do it. It's easy enough for you to kind of get your hands wet and get playing with mastering yourself, but it's as deep and as rich as you need it to be to do all the pro stuff that the pros want to get this released efficiently and with all the information that makes a great release. So kudos to PreSonus. Check it out. You can get the demo, I think, of Studio One. They're on version 2.5 as of this video. It's a great company, great piece of software. I'm enjoying mastering in it, and I've got a few more projects that I'll be working on coming up here, and I'm looking forward to diving into it. Hope that helps, gives you guys an idea on maybe a less talked about side of the Studio One software. Thanks again, guys. Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com. If you like these videos, if they're helpful at all, please subscribe. You can do that at the top of the screen. Go ahead and follow on Twitter or Facebook if that's kind of where you're hanging out. If you're busy during the week and just want to be caught up on what's happening over on the site, there are articles, tips, tutorials, all that stuff happening on the site week in and week out. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you make some great music this Christmas season. We'll talk to you soon.